Hey all, Ronroy here, and today I'm going to showcase my Blood Necromancer leveling build that I leveled 100 with in less than 2 days in Season 2. The build itself is really versatile and can work only with 2 or 3 aspects, so you don't really need to collect more of them at the start and can focus on leveling. It is also pretty beautiful, since Blood theme works the best with Season 2. We can literally destroy vampires with blood. It is based on glorious boom one-shots due to combination of Overpower and Blood Surge mechanics. Let's look further into it. Our main abilities are Blood Surge and passive Rathma Vigor, which creates the opportunity to overpower enemies consistently with huge blood AoE explosions. We are also using Corpse Tendrils to line enemies up and Corpse Explosion as a second damaging ability. Let's look at the whole skill tree, since the ability order is really important while leveling. So, talking about our skill tree, we are starting with Hemorrhage, which will help us to generate essence. We are taking only one passive here, since most of the time we will not use Hemorrhage really often. Here we are taking our main ability, Blood Surge, which will be at rank 5, and we can have additional ranks from item contribution. Main passive here is Paranormal Blood Surge, since it will help us with overpowering enemies more often. We also need to take Imperfectly Balance, together with Unliving Energy and Hewed Flesh, which is really good since it will help us to create additional corpses at the target's location, and then we'll be able to cast Corpse Tendrils and Corpse Explosion that way. Moving forward, we are taking Blood Mist, since it's the best ability for us to survive in the tough situations. We are also taking Ghastly Blood Mist, since that way we can create corpses pretty fast, especially at the start of the boss fight. I'm also taking 5 ranks to the Corpse Explosion, since it's pretty much a skill that we use as a source of damage when we can't overpower with the Blood Surge and don't have enough essence. It also stacked with Plucked Corpse Explosion, since that way it will deal more damage to vulnerable enemies. Grim Harvest is working pretty good as well, since it can give us additional essence while we are using Corpse Explosion, and the Fueled by Death is really nice as well, since we are consuming corpses on the regular basis. Moving forward, we are taking Death Embrace, since we are staying pretty close to all the enemies just to hit them with the Blood Surge. We are taking almost all of the blood passives right here. So it's Drain Vitality for Fortify, it's Tides of Blood for overpower damage, which is really important, and Coalescent Blood to just deal more damage while we are healthy. We are also taking only one rank in the Corpse Tendrils, since we don't need a lower cooldown. We need one cast only around 12 seconds, so we can overpower right after the cast. We are also taking Plucked Corpse Tendrils to make enemies vulnerable with it, and Enhanced Corpse Tendrils, just a way passive. As an ultimate, we are using Blood Wave, which is pretty good mostly because it creates 3 Blood Orbs. With Blood Orbs we can pretty much restack our Overpower bonus from Rathma, and it's really good. Try to collect Blood Orbs at any moment when you can. And both passives right here as well. The last one, Supreme Blood Wave, is really important as well, since we always need the Blood Orbs. Also, if we are using the aspect with which we can create a few Blood Waves, it will spam additional Blood Orbs, and it can boost our damage significantly. The passives here are pretty simple, it's Standalone and Memento Mori for passive bonuses, and Inspiring Leader with only 2 ranks, since we don't really need a lot of attack speed. And the main important thing that we need to get as fast as possible is Rathma Vigor. After being healthy for 12 seconds, our next blood ability overpowers by default, This is a really strong thing. It makes our damage skyrocket. So always make sure that you have Rathma Vigor. When you are playing the game itself, I will showcase it a little later, you have a little icon with Rathma Vigor which showcases how many stacks you have. So when you have 12 on it, make sure you are casting your main ability, which is Blood Surge. It can also restart itself with the Blood Orbs, so try to collect them if you don't have 12 stacks at the moment. Let's move forward with the build. So talking about the aspects, we really need only two. First and the most important one is Bloodbath. This one gives us a second Blood Surge Nova, which will echo around us after a short delay and will deal less damage. So if the first cast was overpowering, then the second will overpower as well, and it will make our damage significantly higher, since it's like a second overpower. That way you need to get this one as fast as possible, and you need to finish the dungeon Horfro's Demise to get it. You can get it pretty early as well. Make sure to put it on your amulet, since it will work the best there. And the second one is Aspect of the Grasping Veins. This one is pretty common for the Necromancer builds. It gives us 30% of additional critical strike chance for 6 seconds after we casted Corpse Tendrils. We also deal more critical strike damage to the enemies that was hit by the Corpse Tendrils itself. Since we are using Corpse Tendrils before we are stacking our Overpower Blood Surge, it's a really good damage source. We can put it on our two-handed sword and it works perfectly right there. To get it, you will need to finish the dungeon Corrupted Grotto, so you can get it pretty early as well. And the last aspect that we can properly utilize should be Tidal. With this one, we are summoning 2 additional blood waves, which are dealing less damage with each one. It doesn't really matter, since most of the time we just use this aspect to spam as many blood orbs as possible. Every wave will bring 3 blood orbs. That way, at the end we will receive 9 instead of 3. And with the blood orbs, we can pretty much restart our Rathma Vigor and Overpower again. That way, you can kinda print it on any kind of ring and it will work perfectly that way. You can also use some other kind of aspects for your survivability, such as Aspect of the Might, Aspect of Disobedience and stuff like this, but they're not that important, especially if you're not playing hardcore. Anyway, if you can use them, you can pretty much print them on your armor, when you can. So talking about the stats at the items, it's a leveling build, so I will not go too deep into every item. Most of the time, at the armor, you need to prioritize total armor and damage reduction from close enemies. If you can also stack maximum life, since it will give you additional damage with Overpower. On helmet you can roll cooldown reduction, on gloves you pretty much need ranks to Blood Surge, together with critical strike chance. On the pants you can roll like armor, life and damage reduction again. At the boots it's pretty important to have essence cost reduction and movement speed, so try to get them if you can. And on the rings it should be life, vulnerable damage and critical strike chance. Overpower damages pretty much works as well. And at the amulet you can just stack movement speed, since it will work pretty alright. You also don't need a lot of stats, and if you don't have them at some items you can still change it. At your weapon you need to stack core skill damage and critical strike damage. That's pretty much it. Everything else is not that important. But if you can roll something like intelligence or all stats bonus, it will be a nice addition. So talking about the Book of the Dead, almost all the options are pretty simple. In the first one we have 2 options. First one should be skirmishes, since it gives us around 6% of critical strike chance. And this is good for our damage. And the second option that I honestly prefer, it's 24% of resistances to all elements. After in this season, season 2, resistances were changed. They are now pretty important to survive better. And I think it's better to survive than to deal more damage. That way, I prefer resistances right here, but if you like damage more, you can always go for the critical strike chance. In the skeletal mages, it's pretty obvious, we are taking overpower damage, since we are overpower base build. And in the golem, we are taking maximum life, since it will boost our overpower damage, which is based on life, and it will boost our survivability as well. So it's an obvious choice. So, talking about our Paragon board. This is pretty basic one, with which we can survive better at the start while we are leveling and hit harder. At the start I'm taking both Prime and Resilience. I'm also taking Preservation here together with Knowledge, and the Glyph here is Blood Drinker. That way we just have more armor and more damage. Blood Orbs also will fortify us, which is pretty nice. Don't forget to take the armor here and here. And the first board should be Bloodbath. This is a really good legendary node for the build since it will increase our overpower damage. Make sure to get this one as fast as possible. So we are starting there, moving to the guarded advance and take Bloodbath as fast as possible. Then we are moving to the right, taking Powerhouse, going up there, and the glyph here is Exploit. We don't really need to stack it that high, but it's a really good one. If you have points, you can get them there as well. I just wasn't that balanced that time. And you need to exit through the left to go for the Blood Begets Blood. Here we just need to take Invigorated and Aggression to the right. The glyph here is pretty simple, it's Undaunted, since most of the time we should be fortified. It also gives us a pretty nice damage reduction bonus. Exiting to the right, here, we are taking Flesh Eater. Flesh Eater is a pretty nice bonus, since we are consuming a lot of corpses with our Corpse Explosion. So just try to get Stifle, together with Targeted and Erudite. The glyph here is Dominate, which gives us a lot of additional overpower damage, and this one is pretty important. Try to take the Willpower here, and it works pretty alright. And up there, I'm exiting through the right, taking Deathmarked, Preservation, and Deathbringer. The last glyph is Imbiber, since most of the time we are healthy, and it's a pretty good bonus as well. So the Paragon is pretty basic, we just need it for leveling, and it could be refined better, but it worked for me pretty nice in the process, and I think it should work for you as well. It could be perfected, so if you have changes in mind, make sure to apply them. So when we need to use our ability for it to overpower. Most of the time we need to stack our Vampiric Power like this, and our Athma bonus like this. When we have 12 stacks, our next skill will overpower. So let's see how it works on practice. We should come closer, find some enemies, and kill them with overpower ability. So right now we are waiting for the 12 stacks, and we can use other vampiric skills in the process. So talking about the Vampiric Powers, those are pretty important. We have one main one, which should be up all the time. And this is Blood Boil. Most of the time we use it, so our next skill will guarantee to overpower. It is really nice since we are overpower stuck in build, and one additional overpower every 20 seconds is amazing. It also gives a really cool bonus when we are create volatile blood drops, but it's not that important. Most of the time we just use it for overpower. We can also use Undying, since that way we'll be able to heal ourselves and to stay at higher life. We can also use Sanguine Brace to fortify and have additional bonuses. We can also use Anticipation for lower ultimate skill cooldown. That way we can spam more blood waves. More blood waves mean more blood orbs, and more blood orbs mean pretty much more overpower. Resilience is really good for surviving as well, so if you can get this one going, just do this. We can also use Prey on the Weak, since most of the time we are making enemies vulnerable, so this one is good as well. Mostly we need to focus on Blood Boil, Undying, Sanguine Brace, and Prey on the Weak, but just use what you have on your items. Make sure Blood Boil is working and everything else is not that important. So it was my Blood Surge leveling build for Necromancer, with which it was pretty easy to push to 100 without doing additional stuff like collecting aspects and stuff like that. I think it's pretty easy to play and really nice, so you can mostly enjoy it, and I hope it will help you to get 100 pretty fast as well. Please like and subscribe for more Diablo 4 and Path of Exile content, and see you next time.